broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Where is it?
Yeah. There it is. Just a little bad to the bone for everybody. I didn't realize actually that at the beginning of a song, I hadn't heard it, maybe I hadn't heard it in a long time, that this was actually bad to the bone. I got schooled a little bit in my musical.
You did. It's okay. We forgive you.
It's taken you a while to hear the beginning of that song.
It's taken me a while, but today we're back after the first week of Hard Knocks. We're in episode 2, bringing you everything Houston Texans. Hard Knocks HBO presents here at AFTERBUZZ TV. My name is Lyndsey Wegner, and I am joined today by Frank. Frank, where can they find you on Twitter?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Let's Go Frank M.
And I'm also joined by Stef Z over there. Steph, where can they find you on Twitter?
Hey guys, you can find me at IAMSTEFZ. I'd love to hear from you.
And we've got Christina Kaplan as well.
Hi, you can find me at Tina Cap.
And I'm Lyndsey Wegner. You guys can find me at Lyndsey Wegner. Let's jump into our initial impressions about this episode. And make sure if you guys want to join in on the conversation that you're using the hashtag ABTV Hard Knocks. And we will converse with you, talk with you guys about whatever you really want to talk about. But hopefully it's more about football for this. So initial impressions today, everybody.
Well, I thought it was a really fun episode. I mean, just to get initially from the beginning the preparation for the preseason game. So we got to see the veterans and at the walkthrough at Energy Stadium, and they're behind, they're down on the field without the grass being out. So I thought it was kind of cool. You get to see the stadium being prepared before the game actually takes place, and then meanwhile you've got the rookies back at practice. So I thought that was a cool behind the scenes thing that we wouldn't see otherwise on game day or with a normal broadcast. So I think that's kind of what the magic of this show is that you get to see things that you otherwise wouldn't get to see. That was what struck me right away.
Right. For me, my overall impression is that I don't know that you guys caught it, and I'm maybe really happy you didn't, but I kind of teared up during this episode when Strong caught that pass. We're not there yet, but when he I'm
Really?
so the moral of the story is I'm kind of falling in love with the Texans. It happens every season. I'm like, yes, no, I love them. I'll have a shirt within like 2 more episodes, but we're there. So.
Yeah, I mean, I just think this season overall, I know we're only 2 episodes in, I just think it's already just a lot better. Not to say that last season wasn't good, but I think just production-wise, the way that they put together the episodes, you saw that slow motion JJ
awesome.
Watt,
Yeah.
like, pushing the guy to the side. It was like such a dope like angle, and just to slow it down and like that stuff like that. I don't know. I think that just this season already is a lot better. Yeah. And I'm not going to lie, I thought it was going to be very boring. The Houston Texans, I didn't think were going to have much to offer, excitement-wise, but it's been great. It's been great so far. I'm excited for the next couple episodes.
I think with some of the players they've picked up and trades they've made, it's made the Houston Texans a little bit more exciting than we initially thought they were going to be. Last year we did see, with Atlanta Falcons, maybe they did have some big players, but I feel like we've got real, like J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, now that he's going to be playing this year. We've got and Cecil Shorts coming back from Jacksonville to play. I think we've got some really good names here that are really going to bring the Houston Texans back up into an actual solid team that's going to get to the playoffs.
And then we also get our first real behind-the-scenes look of Coach Bill O'Brien. I mean, he's led every episode so far. Last week he was talking with his coaches and with his team about what the NFL was saying about them. And then this week we get to see him at halftime of the first preseason game, and he wrote down all the mistakes that his team made. And he's like, let's effing go. Let's get this, get past this. Let's be a professional football team. And he adds another layer of excitement to the show. I think, just like you were saying, I kind of came in with the same feeling. Like, okay, what's Houston going to be about here? They don't have a quarterback. Their stars are mostly on defense. But you had the added element of Coach O'Brien, who's really exciting to watch so far.
Yeah, and I feel like that, again, to wrap it all up, they're doing a really good job to get us. They're showing us personality. They're showing us players. They're like, we're bonding.
Yeah.
There's lots of team bonding going on, and they're showing us that. So it's almost like we feel like we're bonding with them.
Absolutely. And I love how they always hook us in right off the start.
Yeah.
Like you said, they're coming in right away talking about at halftime of the preseason game against the 49ers. And Bill O'Brien is saying that they had 7 shots at the goal line and didn't get it.
Yeah.
They did not get in. And this can't happen.
But I think that was one of the awesomest things, and I feel like there should be a quote every episode, the Bill O'Brien quote of the day, because I love him, and that quote where he was like, let's just let him go for it. And it shows you how much preseason numbers don't matter, but he wanted more for them to go for it and almost fail so that it would be good tape so that they can learn from it. So I really liked his call with that play.
We need a Bill O'Brien quote. Every episode.
Yeah, I think I have what he said later in the night. That would be the quote of the night.
It needs to happen. So we obviously open with that, and then we see the vets at practice. They're doing a walkthrough practice, and we've got the rookies actually doing full contact and the full contact, full practice. And like Frank said, this is before the turf and everything's grass is down. And we've got some players getting into the game for the first time, including Lyndon Trail, who's the cornerback and a rookie. And he's just not getting the plays. He's not catching on. And we've got Mike Vrabel just kind of laying into him. And we know that he came from the Patriots. He played for the Patriots in 2001 to 2008. He has a similar playing style to J.J. Watt, which is why I think they work well together, because he, during the Patriots games, played linebacker, but then would go in and play tight end like J.J. Watt, and actually had 10 touchdowns there. So they've got that kind of similar mentality and playing style. So he's a great coach, but he's given Lyndon Trail a little bit of heckling a little bit. What did you guys think about that?
Yeah, he gave him the business. He kicked him out of practice after 2 really bad plays that he made, or he didn't kick him out of practice. He took him off the playing field and sent him to the sidelines to think about it. And then we see Lyndon Trail at dinner, getting, explaining it with his family. And so you see that what happens in practice and out there on the playing field affects these guys beyond just what happens on the field that day. They go home, they talk to their families about it, and you realize that their performance affects just not themselves, but he was there with his girlfriend and her daughter there, and they were all talking about what happened at practice that day and how frustrated he was. And like it is for a rookie linebacker, you want to put your best foot forward every single day, because you don't know if this is going to be your last day on the playing field. They can cut you at any time. So I thought that was really interesting, to see the rookies practicing while the veterans are out, at the stadium having a good time, and J.J. Watt and Vince Wilfork are joking with each other on the sideline. What do you think, Steph?
No, I think with Trail, I've always been a fan of the tough love, though. Like, I like the stern coaching style. I've had stern coaches all my life. I feel like it teaches you discipline. I feel like this coddling people doesn't think work, and you can tell it is working, because what I took away from when he was having dinner with his girlfriend is he was telling her he needs to impress the vets, which is so true. You have to earn the respect of your team in order to do good. You have to have that communication. You have to have that, and it's not like he was turtle shelled up after he got the tough love. Like, he was performing, he was thinking about it. So I'm a big fan of that. I know nowadays, like, sometimes it's like poo-pooed upon, but like I really think that
but you know where you stand.
That works.
You know where you stand with your coach. And I think last season with Atlanta, they were talking about how if the coach doesn't care about you, then he's not going to be talking to you. He's not going to be coaching you. So to see that tough love, that's something that I like in my work life with my bosses. If they're not hard on me and they're not trying to get me to perform better, then they really don't care. And you kind of get worried a little bit. But yeah, I totally agree with you on the tough love part. I think that was really cool. Yeah. And it seems Mike Vrabel really cares about these players, so he wants them to perform really well.
We also see that a little bit later on in the episode with Charles James, the cornerback, kind of giving, which rookie was that? Which one
Number
was
43.
It? number 43, Charles James, and more.
Corey Moore.
Yeah. He was giving him a little bit of stuff and being tough on him, explaining urgency is so important. You've got to go after it and saying, you need to listen. You have to pay attention and listen to what I'm saying. And the guy was kind of just like ignoring him. But this guy knows. He knows what he's talking about. And maybe it's not coming from a coach, but this is coming from a teammate who wants to see you succeed. He only wants you to get better. He wants you to keep playing. He goes, you could be cut. Tomorrow, you could be cut. Let's make it count when we're here and do what we're supposed to be doing. Cool. So let's talk a little bit about JJ and Vince Wilfork. Obviously, they've got a great relationship so far. We see them joking around a lot. They've been in the, in the football world for quite some time. They're both vets. They've been around. Breakfast, favorite meal of the day, brunch, all that good stuff.
I mean, it sounded like Vince Wilfork's wife can make a mean croissant sandwich thing. Whatever he was explaining sounded delicious. And JJ's like, I want to get over there, and that's what I want her to make. I'm coming over next time we have some off time. I'm like,
I know.
Can
we want to be invited too?
I love Vince Wilfork's wife too. By the way, I think she's so awesome.
She's so funny.
We've seen a few, clips of her, and she seems like a really she seems like the perfect kind of girl for him. Like they complement each other really well. Like she gives him crap all the time, and she seems like a real, true, genuine kind of down to earth kind of just chill girl.
I kind of love her necklace too.
Yeah, she's rocking the chain.
She's just so supportive and happy. That's my boy out there, but totally she can give him shit when she wants.
The bubble shoes, the whole you must stink, and that's gross.
She's funny.
Yeah.
She's really funny.
Which is cool because it shows his character too. I think they're a good reflection of each other.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think between JJ Watt and Vince Wilfork, I think JJ kind of looks up to him in a way. You could see it during the episode. They're a lot of hanging out with each other. Vince seems to be a little bit of a leader, and I think because he's a champion. He's won titles with the Patriots, and now, obviously that's something that JJ Watt wants really badly. So I think that informs their relationship a little bit. There's definitely respect there between both of them because JJ is the best defensive player in the league right now. But Vince Wilfork's been there. He's got his ice on his fingers, and it's something that JJ wants to learn from.
Yeah, I think it's a mutual respect because even though Wilfork might be more of a quote-unquote vet, JJ is a little bit more boisterous and loud, so he's like, I'm just going to stay in the background a little bit because I know that's what you need to do, but I'm right here if you need me. I feel like they have a really good relationship there, which, again, is lots of bonding on tonight's show, so I like that.
They both were captains of their teams, so, they both have the ability to lead, and it is good because you're right. Wilfork does respect JJ Watt just as much as JJ respects him. Maybe looks up to him. Maybe JJ looks up to him a little bit more since he's been around longer. But let's talk about one of Christina's favorite players, Brian Cushing, who has no filter. We see a little insight into his home life with his wife Megan and their two kids, Caden and Kai, and both of them have similar head injuries lately in the past year and stuff. We did see Brian Cushing, obviously it was during the Browns game, when helmet to bare head, smashed. I freaked out because it was blood. It was a little crazy.
Kind of a badass.
Yeah.
He's not my favorite. He's totally not my favorite. His swag, on a personal level, he's an amazing player, but he's totally your favorite, so take it away.
He's so hot. He's I like that he's so confident in himself, and it's not that it's not like he's being cocky because he's actually backing it up on the field. When he said he called Alfred Blue out, he's like, come on, Blue, let's go again. He wants to challenge him. He wants to challenge himself. So, yeah, okay, you can see it maybe as a little bit cocky, but he's going out there and he's proving it.
I understand what you're saying.
He's backing up his talk.
He's talking the talk and walking the walk.
It's not all bark. He's got a little bite in there, too.
The big bite.
What did he say? He forklifted Alfred Blue over the when they called him back out for the drill. He forklifted him because he did. He took one hand and he threw him right over the quarterback pad there. It was so funny to see that because he's like, don't mess with me. I'm the man.
I kind of like when he bumped into the guy and he was like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. Yeah, I did that on purpose. I was like, which is cool again too, because I give it to you. He's light in his joking, but he's super cocky. But on the field, that matters, and he seems like a nice guy.
And from a football standpoint, I noticed his read and react is instantaneous.
Right.
So important for a linebacker, especially in run support, to get to their assigned hole right away. They've got to fill their gap because a lot of times in the system that they're running on defense, those D linemen are trying to fill one or two gaps. So Cushing's got to get to his gap right away. And you could see it in practice in the footage they were showing us this week. He gets to his hole so quickly.
Right.
I mean, he's right in there. And Coach Vrabel was giving him praise. You know, come here, man. That was sick that you got there so quickly. And that's what makes him really, really good. That, and like you guys said, he's pretty much a badass out there. So he's a really high quality player.
Well, and like you guys were talking about with our Cushing, Mr. Brian Cushing, we've also got him practicing against Freddie Blue, who's going to probably be taking over.
Alfred Blue.
Freddie Blue. Alfred Blue.
Alfred Blue.
Yeah. Taking over at the probably starting running back position as well. Looking good on the field. Do you guys think he's going to be taking over at starting running back, or do you think someone else has that
there's
spot?
no other option except
Adrian's
Hilliard or whatever, who's a rookie. But Alfred Blue is... He didn't have a very great season last year, so the Texans are really going to miss Arian Foster, and I don't know. I mean, it was preseason, so you can't really put too much stock into his performance there, and the 49ers suck, so I'm sorry. So I'm a little worried for them in their run game. It's not really looking that great, but you never know. Blue could, rise up and have a great season. Luckily, they have some talented wideouts to kind of take over. And I think that Mallett and Hoyer are both pass-heavy quarterbacks.
Yeah, I was gonna say
that'll be
good for them.
Beneficial, with the loss of Arian Foster. So
it's definitely more of a throwing game than it is going to be a running game. I mean, and they do have Jonathan Grimes in for third downs. So he's the other running back that they have backing up. So I mean,
which means nothing.
Which means
who's Jonathan Grimes? Just kidding.
Do they call him Freddie, by the way?
They do call him Freddie.
Oh, I missed
I've never heard that.
I didn't hear him call him Freddie before.
They haven't done it. They haven't done it on the
name's
show,
Alfred.
but last season when I was watching the games.
Oh, okay. They called him Freddie Blue.
Yeah.
Okay, I like it.
So another big thing we've got to talk about is the media. We understand how media heavy being in a sport is, because we are now literally involved socially with social media and getting involved in the Instagram and the Twitter and people talking like that, as well as camera people and reporters there. When I would go and watch Packer practices years ago, 15, 20 years ago, there was no media there at the practices. And we're talking about the Brett Favre, Antonio Freeman, Robert Brooks, Bill Schrader era, which for the Packers was a big... Like, this was when we were hitting Super Bowls and stuff like that. So this was a big thing. There was no media. This was also 15, 20 years ago. Media obviously plays a huge...
Well, not even the media. I mean, everybody can be a reporter now. I mean, not to take a tangent, but today, the Dallas Cowboys and the Rams got into a huge fight. There's people that are putting it up everywhere. So the media is super important. And again, anyone can be a reporter right now, which is crazy.
And we saw the cool, an amazing behind-the-scenes shot of Bill O'Brien talking to his team about what to say to the media. And as a fan, sometimes I get frustrated when those guys give those sort of non-committal answers. I'm just here working hard, trying to get better every day. I'm just worried on me. But I get so frustrated as a fan. I'm like, tell me what you think about the
You'd rather hear someone like Robert Griffin III who says he's the best quarterback in the NFL when he is not. His rankings are horrendous. If you think about it from the head coach's standpoint,
I totally get it.
A lot of these guys need to just shut their mouths because, and RG3 is a huge, perfect example for that. So I think, like you said, it's good to see the behind the scenes of that because you see these guys, a lot of Jameis Winston is heavily coached every time he gives an interview. I just love the game of football. I'm just out here playing the game of football, playing hard. I'm working hard every interview.
That's so boring from a fan's point of view.
Right,
I get it from the coaches.
From a coach, and from being an athlete. You don't want to have that scrutiny because you don't say something the right way and the media twists it in a bow and hands it to somebody else to run with.
Yeah, because you could say something so innocent and they could turn it around and make this huge story about it and blow it up, and then now you're in the middle of some media
He
drama.
said you control the interview.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. It's to not cause extra distractions for your team. I'm just saying from a fan's point of view, I like to hear what they say sometimes. I like RG3 getting a little braggadocious. It's funny. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's funny. It's comical because he's horrible.
I think the takeaway again from like the Bill O'Brien quotes is that he was like, the media is a conduit to the fans. So again, he's looking at the big picture that we need to do this, but there's a way to do it that's not going to hurt you. It's not going to hurt me. It's not going to hurt the team. So just do it that way and listen to me. Which is interesting because, like you said, a lot of people do get heavily coached. I'm sure every team gets that basic, like, shut your mouth. So it's like, when you do see these players come out and say these things, it's like, sometimes, what are they thinking?
Yeah.
Like, what are you thinking when you, like, this is, like, why do you need that? You got the check. You got the playing time. There's a scoreboard. Show it then. Be like Kush.
Yes,
Show it then.
exactly.
Just saying.
Well, and they do need to be coached on this because a lot of these guys coming up, this is their first time dealing with, even if they were in college, this is their first time dealing with media on a national, huge level that's going to be going places. So they do need to be told, if you don't understand the question, don't answer it. Just say no comment. It's okay. It's better to have, I know it's boring, it's better for the team, the fans, to be in a neutral place. So one of our big guys this season is going to be DeAndre Hopkins, and we see a little vignette of him out shopping. It's one of his favorite things to do, along with a couple of the other guys shopping for their kids. And one of the things that I enjoyed about seeing two of the guys shopping was saying they're going to dress their kids right from the beginning so they don't dress bad later. They're going to keep them clothed.
Because they both have daughters. That's what was the point.
Keep them clothed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's crazy out here in LA. I've seen lots of 14-year-olds in clothes that, as a 25-year-old, I wasn't wearing, and quite surprising. So start them young. Good stuff on that.
I kind of like DeAndre Hopkins talking about his man bag.
With
Yes,
the
and he
players?
wants to get a Yorkie to put in it.
Yeah,
He's like, it's very European.
And it's so funny because, I don't know, and I used to work in the fashion industry, but it's like, it's a generic looking bag.
Yeah.
It wasn't super like it was a great, fine, cool looking bag, but for him to go European Yorkie, love him. Love how that's how it made sense to him. And he's like, no, I'm gonna say this is European. I'm gonna put my little dog in there, and I'm good.
And
like,
one of the guys, I forget who it was like, I'm going to delete your number.
I'm not going to judge you, but I'll delete your number.
Yeah.
Which is just cool, again, showing that banter that these guys, it makes them more tangible, that these guys are just like, you and I, everybody else. They talk about certain things. They talk about, if they wear jock straps. Like, they talk about all this stuff like normal people, but once they step onto the field, it's all business.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Christina, he was on your fantasy team last year, DeAndre Hopkins.
Yes.
How do you feel after seeing the second episode about him stepping up, being that number one wide receiver?
I think he's going to be great this season. He looks very explosive. Like I said, last year he was a strong number 2 wideout and put up decent numbers. And now with the enhanced role for him and the way that he's been performing so far, I think he's going to have a great season. And like I said earlier, pass heavy offense, I think that I don't know. I don't want to say he's going to be like a top 10 wideout, but I think he has the potential to have a really great season.
Yeah, it was interesting to see them taking the banner down. In the episode, they were taking the banner down of Andre Johnson, who was there last year and who has been their number one receiver for a long time, and up goes the banner for DeAndre Hopkins. So, it's not always a guarantee that a number 2 receiver can just vault up to be a number 1 simply because the number 1 left. But after watching him in practice in this episode, and especially during the game, he didn't catch a ball in the game, but he's pretty quick out there, and he's getting
very
himself
explosive.
open. Yeah, he's getting himself, and you don't need a ton of space, but he was creating a lot of extra room for himself. Yeah. So I'm starting to come over. I'm starting to believe a little bit.
Yeah, no, I like him a lot. I think he'll have a great season. So
No, I agree with you.
Have you guys noticed how it's a little bit more, we're focusing more on the last 2 episodes, as far as I can tell, on the defense? Do you think it's because there's so many stars and vets on the defense versus the offense? Because they don't really have any super big offensive players, the wide receivers, the quarterbacks are coming in. You know, it's a new game for most of. Do you think that's why?
It could also be because they don't want to show their cards to everybody else. Like every other team could be watching it like this. You know, I mean, who knows if there was that much thought that went into it? But yeah, and I think too. Like a few of us have said, thinking that watching the Texans, like, what are we watching for? So you want to see the J.J. Watt, you want to see the Clowney, you want to see those things happening because those are the players you connect with. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you know, we've got quarterback competition, but it's not super exciting to watch.
We barely heard from them. You know, you make a great point. We barely heard from Ryan Mallett at all in sort of one-on-one interview setting in this episode, and Brian Hoyer's appearance was super brief, and normally the quarterback competition would be the lead story,
right?
But we haven't really heard from them, and it's interesting. It actually adds, I think, for me, a little bit of element of mystery because we don't know exactly how it's going to turn out between the two guys, and we don't know what's going on inside of their heads. So I think it works in a way because we don't get to see them at every single pass or every single practice and what their thoughts on it were.
Well, I think that's very strategic because if they give these guys one-on-one interviews, they're going to have to elaborate on how training camp is going, how preseason is going. Right now, Bill O'Brien's saying there is no clear starter. They're both neck and neck, and that's how he wants to keep it. And so they can't really, just like Steph was saying, they can't really show their cards. I think that is the main reason. Last year, obviously, Matt Ryan, there's no question he was going to be the starter, so they could really focus a lot on him. But I don't think that I don't think they're focusing too much on the defense. I feel like it's pretty even as far as last season went with the focus on each set of positions, but I think also, like you guys were saying, J.J. Watt seems to be like one of the main focal points of this season. Obviously, he's one of the best players in the league and the best defensive player in the league, and so with that, I think you kind of want to show his surrounding pieces,
right? And how last season we got that maybe from Matt Ryan more.
Yeah, but I feel like we saw a lot of the rookie linebackers last season.
Yeah,
so I think we're seeing that again this season. We've seen a lot of Hillard I think he's the only rookie we've really focused on the offense.
Well,
or that they've really touched on. Yes, I'm sorry, Jalen Strong as well. Those are the only two really offensive rookies that they've focused on. But it's hard with such a short season. I think they don't want to cram everything in, and they're kind of slowly developing stories and showing us as much as they can, really.
And I think, too, if one of them, if as we talk about offense, usually it comes back to the quarterback conversation. If one of them was blowing the other one out of the water, it would be more of a story. But because they're both kind of performing, I think it's why, again, we're not seeing it so much yet. Yeah. I'm sure we will.
Okay, well, let's get into the game, and we're going to talk about, Hoyer and Mallett. We saw both of them play during the game. We also saw Jalen Strong and Cecil Shorts making plays. So let's get into some of what we thought about this. Yeah, who is going to be quarterback? I think it was either Christina or Steph that mentioned Brian Hoyer commands a little bit more than Mallett does. Was that? Which one of these?
She said it last week. I mentioned it again.
You mentioned
today.
it this week.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're on the same page. We agree.
Ladies are on the same page about
that. Rarely happens.
That does rarely happen.
On the same page about Hoyer. That maybe
stage right.
He may command the huddle a little bit more. I just feel like Mallett's just more consistent. I like his arm better.
Really?
He couldn't get it in 7 times in a row.
Wait.
Mallett is a little spacey to me out on the field. He doesn't have a strong personality, which is so important for a quarterback. You need to have a strong personality. You need to be able to take over. I mean, again, we don't know how they're editing this. We might be missing a lot of stuff of Mallett in the huddle that could change our opinion, but from what we see, Brian Hoyer really steps up, commands the field. I feel like he's got much better precision in his throws than Mallett does.
I agree with you.
That's a fair point, and I think you're right. He got the first snaps in this game, though Coach O'Brien came out right after the game and said Mallett is going to start next week, so they're going to flip roles. Their stats were pretty similar. I mean, Brian Hoyer threw 4 balls, 2 were caught for 67 yards and a touchdown, that touchdown being to Cecil Shorts that we saw on the show.
Beautiful.
Just a perfectly on time, over the middle slant route that was in between two linebackers in a zone D, and then Shorts blew by the rest of the guys and split two defenders. And then you heard on the show, Mallett completed his first 8 passes. He ended up 10 of 11 for 90 yards. So there's still no real separation there.
Right, but for me, I don't know why, maybe I'm the only one that thinks this, but Hoyer's pass, he like laced the needle. So it's like that pass stands out more than a few passes that weren't as hard that are still on target.
Yeah,
for me.
And I want to get back.
To be able to, in that pressure situation, again, goes back to Hoyer and his confidence to go for it and to make it and have that poise in the pocket. I kind of...
And that's always been the rap.
Hoyer.
That's been on the rap with Mallett since he was at Michigan, his first year in college, Arkansas, and New England, is that he didn't have the mental makeup to be an elite quarterback. And we see it a lot in practice. A lot of the clips that they showed in the show, he was like throwing his hand up, and you see him making mistakes, and it's clear he has the physical tools. I said last week, he's 6'5", he's 240, and has the arm talent, but kind of like you were saying, he might not have the mental game to be a starting quarterback. And Brian Hoyer, he had success in Cleveland when he was there. Him and Josh Gordon hooked up for a ton of yardage and a ton of touchdowns, so he has that presence in the huddle that you were talking about for sure.
Well, also, Hoyer was in a very bad environment in Cleveland. It was Johnny football, all the drama, everyone saying how bad he was, how he shouldn't be starting. I think he's in a much better environment here in Houston, and I feel like he has the chance to really flourish and come into his own as a quarterback. And like I said, what we're seeing so far, I'm confident that he could take the starting position once season comes.
I totally agree with you. Cleveland was a media circus back to the media. Yeah. So for him, that was just, he totally got the short end of the stick with that Johnny football.
I think if he can
started on Johnny football.
I think if he can find some chemistry with some of the wide receivers, he will be fantastic. I liked Mallett's little quarterback sneak earlier at practice. I mean, those are also plays that need to be made, and perhaps Hoyer's more confident. He went into he said it himself. He went into New England nervous, and then was so glad he came out from learning from Tom Brady and being in that situation, going to Cleveland and now coming here. So maybe he will be more confident, and just I'm interested to see how Mallett will handle starting next week, and if the stats are going to differ or anything. I mean,
but even... Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, you can't really even put too much stock into preseason because they go through about 1, 2, 3 series and that's it, you know, and then Tom Savage comes in and does his thing. So it's kind of hard to go off stats, you know? Like we were talking about it on the show on NFL Preseason HQ, which you should definitely watch. They were talking about how the media, has been judging Marcus Mariota and Jameis Winston off of their first preseason games when they had a couple bad plays, but really the sample size is so small, and they take it and they exacerbate it so much. So it's hard to really put a lot of stock in the stats. I think that we're lucky we're getting to see these practices and real behind the scenes stuff with it. But I will be interested to see how Mallett does as the actual starter this coming.
It's interesting because you point out Mallett and taking that quarterback sneak. So for me, that was something that was completely went against his confidence and how coach said it's 3rd and 3. Why are you doing that? And he's like, well, I thought that was the play. And I feel like Hoyer, and I could be wrong, but I feel like Hoyer would have been like 3rd and 3. Why am I sneaking it? He didn't question it.
Not the mistake one. Not the mistake one during the game. The one during practice that
Hoyer scored a touchdown in practice too, though.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they both did.
So, but yeah, like stuff like that shows his shows his confidence. Like if you no one would ever call that play in a game. So for him, and then he was just like, "Oh, I was just doing what you said, coach." Like, do you want that guy that just does what you say? Like, yes, to an extent, you want that, but you also want the guy that's confident enough to be like, This isn't gonna work.
Right. Perfect example. Aaron Rodgers would definitely not have done that. I feel like the elite quarterbacks in this league would have known a 3rd and 3. Why am I sneaking on a 3rd and 3?
Right.
I'm not going to do that and make the right decision and probably be successful. And the coach would have been like, all right, cool, good job. I'm glad you figured that out.
Or at least time out, do something. You know what I mean? Like to question it, to
That's
show
what I
that
mean
he
by
was aware.
He's a little spacey, I feel like. Yeah.
He's still at breakfast.
I doubt he'll do it again.
Well,
not gonna make the same mistake
I hope
I
not.
like him. I'm just picking. But
One big thing Coach O'Brien talks about is consistency. That's going to be who plays the game. That's going to be who becomes the quarterback. That's going to be who becomes the starting wide receiver, secondary, all that stuff. The fight between Jalen Strong and Cecil Shorts. And Jalen Strong is, I think, coming up and showing he could be a really, really valuable player.
he made it happen when it counted. He couldn't catch him during practice, but that TD, that was when I teared up. I literally was like,
there we got it.
I get so emotional during football. But yeah, like that's what you want to see. You don't want to see the guys that are good at practice, and then when it comes to the game, they can't perform, they can't make decisions, they don't have confidence. You want to see the guys like when game time, once that clock starts, they're in.
Well, he's in a different situation too because he does have DeAndre Hopkins and Cecil Shorts, and it's Cecil Shorts the third. Believe it or not, there's three men in this world named Cecil Shorts. But he has those two guys ahead of him, whereas someone like last year, Sammy Watkins, coming into the Bills offense, he was the number one wideout. And Victor Cruz going down with the Giants, Odell Beckham Jr. became the number one wideout. So Jalen Strong doesn't really have as much pressure on him to go out there and perform. I think he's kind of got just an average rookie year ahead of him where he'll get the snaps that he gets, but it's not like he's the third string wideout, you know what I mean? Right. It's a different situation for him, but with that being said, he obviously has to perform when it matters, like you said, Steph, and he did. So
yeah, I'm pulling for him.
Yeah, and staying on offense,
jersey.
I want to briefly touch on the running game because we didn't see a whole lot of highlights in this episode, but I've got the stats here. Alfred Blue had one really big run. He had a 32-yard run, which was great, but then other than that, he had 8 carries for 27 yards. I mean, what is that? 3 and a tenth of a yard per carry. So the Arian Foster injury, which they covered last week, is coming up big again. And you mentioned Kenny Hilliard. He had 13 carries for 39 yards. That's 3 yards a carry. And then the rest of these guys weren't really inspiring. So the biggest question for me with this team on offense is, and you guys have mentioned a couple times before, Mallett and Hoyer are pass-happy quarterbacks. Do you want these guys throwing that many times? I mean, Mallett would be a brand new starter. Hoyer's been a journeyman so far. I think it'd be far more valuable to have a powerful running game
if you had a good running back. Yes, that's the issue
that's what
there.
I'm saying,
I mean, and honestly, there'll be somewhat of a balance. If you got two guys that can go 3-4 yards every single time, they'll definitely be able to switch it up, and he won't get tired of throwing. But these guys, if they've got the receivers and they've got the arm.
At the same time, you don't want to be predictable with the passing game, that it's always going to go to the pass instead of the run. So you do need someone that is going to pick up more than 3 yards on the run. And I do think that Alfred Blue is capable of that. I think he knows he's got to step up to that position now. Yeah. He came in under Arian Foster last season, so I don't think that his confidence was there last season, him with Arian Foster going out with injury. So he didn't have a great season last season. But let's also, before we have to wrap things up, let's talk about Jadeveon Clowney and his return, rehabbing, getting ready to come back to the game.
Woo!
This is a player that we saw last season during the Atlanta Falcons game that just knocked some plays. We were like, this guy is a beast.
Yes.
We could not wait to see him play. Then got injured and had to go out and get surgery, a micro fracture surgery on his right knee, and he's going to be coming back. This is huge for the defense.
I'm really interested, honestly. I'm really interested to see how they're going to, what they're going to show us next week of him, because if you have listened, there were a lot of questions about his work ethic, and saying at South Carolina he didn't really have a good work ethic. He was just naturally talented, and that was one of the biggest issues with him coming in. Obviously he got injured, didn't really get to see that, so I'm interested to see what we're going to see. We saw a little bit of him working this week, but it seems like next week they're going to focus a lot more on him, so I'm interested to see what they're going to show us.
So is he going to Bo Jackson it and not practice and just want to play the game?
Well, no, his first day back,
see.
His first day fully back was yesterday. So they came out with the news yesterday. August 17th was always the day that they were going to bring him back. And they did. And, JD is one of my favorite players ever. And he shouldn't be, because he rocked Vincent Smith from Michigan. You saw the clip during the show. He knocked his helmet off, which sent him into orbit. And but still, he's one of my favorite players because he's such a nightmare off the edge. And it was sad to see last year he got hurt in the first game of the season, and it sort of it hindered him for the rest of the year. And then he had microfracture surgery, which I read is a procedure in which tiny fractures are made in the bones around the knee to improve your blood flow. So apparently it's really serious, and guys don't always come back 100% healthy from that. So to see him back out there on the show was exciting. I mean, he's such a dynamic player, and I really hope he comes back 100%.
He has the potential, if he can stay healthy, to be one of the top pass rushers in the league.
Yeah.
And he's so young, but he's so dominant. It's just crazy. So I really hope that he stays healthy because I want to see that.
I totally want to see how that shakes out.
Yeah, with him and J.J. Watt in the front seven with Cushing back there, I mean,
this is a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
They could really, really stop. The whole last season when the Falcons were talking about, we don't want them to get points. This is it right here. That stops it right there. They stop the game. Those three guys, it's huge.
Well, and then you have Vince Wilfork in the middle too, so we can't forget about him, and the rest of the guys. The supporting cast is great too. So
which brings us into them playing the Broncos next week. So let's get into some predictions next week since they play the Broncos. Who do we think's gonna win? Who's gonna walk away? How's Jadeveon Clowney gonna do? Think he's gonna be making some plays, or?
I think it's going to be very interesting. The Broncos now with Gary Kubiak running the offense over there, which is going to be a run-heavy offense. So it's going to be a testament to the Houston Texans defense to see how they do. So I'm definitely interested to see that because the Broncos have quite a few relatively strong running backs in C.J. Anderson, Ronnie Hillman, Monty Ball. So we'll see how the Houston defense does. I don't know. It's hard for me. I can't really decide who I think will win that game because there's so many variables, really. And preseason is just really hard to kind of predict because your starters are only in for so long, and then it's kind of like just practice for the rest of the guys to try to shine.
No, I agree with you. The Broncos have a few weapons on offense, so it's really going to put the D to the test. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to predict that the Texans defense will somewhat shut that down. And I'm also going to predict that we're going to see Mallet do something that we're either going to be... I feel like he's going to do something that we're either going to be like, okay, he does not have his confidence at all, or we're going to be changed. Like, I feel like there's going to be some play. There's going to be a standout confidence make or break play that I'm looking forward to seeing. Like, I feel like with him starting, it's going to be either like, oh, wait, he's got this, or like, oh, no, put Hoyer back in.
Yeah.
Are you going to give us a score or no?
Nah, it's preseason.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter, man.
I'm giving a score. Okay,
right,
I'm
give
doing
us a score, Frank.
I'm going to say it's going to be Denver 31, Houston 14. Okay?
Ooh.
31-14 Denver. I'm writing it down right now. Okay? Because I think this is going to be, like Christina said before, San Francisco is reeling from a horrible offseason. Harbaugh is gone. A ton of their players retired and left, and they didn't have much on. Arrested.
They just fell apart.
Yeah, so I'm going to say Denver is going to win. That's a much more high-quality competition, and even though it's preseason, I think they have more quality depth. Though I'm rooting for the Texans. You fall in love with them watching this show, so I hope they perform well at least.
I'm rooting for the Texans. I think Denver is going to squeak out a win. I don't think it's going to be as big a spread as you said.
Okay.
I think that they're just going to, they'll squeak it out.
What's the score? I'm writing it down.
I'm not writing. I'm not giving you a score.
You guys.
No score here.
No fun.
But, all right, you guys, we do want to talk to you about one more thing. It's about the haircuts. So make sure that you tweet us using the hashtag ABTV Hard Knocks so we can talk about the rookie haircuts, because that was a fun little thing.
Yeah, tell us which one was your favorite.
Which one was your favorite? Was it Friar Tuck? Was it spots? Whatever it is. All right, starting all the way over there with Christina. Let them know where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram or Twitter at Tina Cap.
You guys can find me at IAMSTEFZ.
And I am on Twitter at Let's Go Frank M.
And I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Lyndsey Wegner. Thanks you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.
See you guys.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.